Good afternoon, everybody. As you know, on May 31st, Bellevue experienced wide-scale violence and looting in our downtown corridor. The organizers of the event attempted to cloak themselves under the guise of peaceful protests, and I'm here today to report that we have unmasked many of these individuals and have begun making arrests. I want to make it perfectly clear. The widespread violence that we witnessed in Bellevue on May 31st has absolutely no connection to the many lawful protests Bellevue has witnessed since George Floyd's homicide. We all should be repulsed that any individual or group would exploit a tragic event like Mr. Floyd's death to engage in violent criminal activities like we witnessed in Bellevue on May 31st. Since the event, and working with our regional and federal partners, we have dedicated a significant number of resources, detectives, equipment, and other resources to investigate, identify, and arrest those individuals for the destruction in Bellevue. Last Friday, the Bellevue Police Department, in partnership with the Renton Police Department, arrested a 26-year-old male at his Renton home. You can see on the table a sample of the evidence recovered from the suspect's home that we believe was stolen in the course of the looting. This includes $19,000 worth of clothing. I'm not seeing it here, but alcohol, tobacco, and other evidence. In addition to what we believe to be recovered stolen property, BPD officers also recovered from the suspect's home, which you see to my left, an AK-47 with a silencer which was located in a baby's crib, a 10mm Glock handgun, a significant amount of ammunition, methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, drug scales, baggies, and paraphernalia which is consistent with the sale and distribution of narcotics. Also recovered was an amount of cash money. To date, we have arrested or filed charges on 23 individuals. But we've also identified close to 100 individuals that we will be contacting very soon. We have received 10,000 pieces of video and photographic evidence that was submitted by the public. I cannot overstate how important this information has been to our investigation. In fact, the 26-year-old male that we took into custody in Renton, we were able to identify that person through a photograph that an individual living in the downtown Bellevue area took as this individual sat in a vehicle as his accomplice went in and burglarized the original jewelers. Megan will be sharing with you how in one photograph the distinct tattoos of this individual can be seen, as well as his face. Folks, we're just getting started. We have been working hard to identify the individuals that victimized Bellevue, exploited the tragic death, homicide of George Floyd, and we're going to be bringing people to justice. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Do you have any reason to believe that these individuals belong to a gang or organized group of gang members?
The individuals that we arrested, I'm not going to go there at this point. We are still interviewing people and determining if there is any sort of connection. We do believe the day of the riots and the looting that individuals that participated in organizing it have gang affiliations.
But again, they would have no connection to the peaceful protesters. They were
None. Absolutely not. Again, we've had since Mr. Floyd's death, we've had numerous protests in Bellevue. And as I've said before, people raising their voices in horror and anger, frustration, hurt by what happened to Mr. Floyd and others throughout our country. And they have every right to do it, and we need to listen. But the stuff that happens under the guise of the protest and these individuals cloaking themselves is disgusting, because we should be focusing in on that and not on the destruction that occurred during the protests.
Would you say it was a well-organized effort, though, that they had a plan and knew they were going to do, that it was obviously?
There was a well-organized plan, yes.
These weapons on the table here to the right, so recovered from this house, do you have any reason to believe that any or all of these weapons were present the day of that looting?
I don't have information related to that, but we do know that many individuals that were committing the violence in Bellevue, shouldn't say many, some were armed. We know that to be true.
Gotcha, but you don't know that that AK there was present?
I don't have that information right now.
Have you been able to trace these weapons to any other major crimes?
Can't go there. I can't go there. I can't comment on that. There are open investigations in our region that I can't comment on that right now.
The person arrested in Renton, do you have reason to believe they had a planning role or just a participation role in this looting?
I don't know. I don't know.
Did you comment on if you had information early on that these leaders were coming, that this was going to happen?
So we had, when Mayor Durkin initiated the curfew ordinance in Seattle, we started seeing some chatter on social media that basically the quote was, Bellevue doesn't have a curfew, and then they made some, used some expletives to describe how we can build it back really quick. From there, our intelligence officers were monitoring, and I don't want to get into the specifics of how they were able to determine that it was becoming more organized. But as Captain Meade from the State Patrol had commented, we were seeing that widespread throughout our region, the same chatter. And so there is a belief that some of this dialogue that was going on social media was actually a ruse by the organizers to pull resources out of Seattle and get us spread out. Again, we're learning from what happened here in Bellevue and throughout the region, so we can better position ourselves and prepare ourselves to overcome it and prevent it.
There were a lot of people that broke in at multiple different points of entry. Is it your belief that the 26-year-old was probably the pivot point for all of that? Or do
No.
you think that there were freelancers as well?
Yeah, so I think there was different levels. I think you had the people that were organizing this, and then I think you had opportunists that came into Bellevue and took advantage of the situation. And we're sorting through that, trying to identify who played what role. But there's a lot of people. You know, at the height of this, we're estimating the crowd between 1,000 and 2,000 people. So, and again, the violence and looting that we witnessed here in Bellevue, you know, we saw it throughout the region. We actually saw it throughout the country, but we're convinced that the same group that did it here did it elsewhere. And so we're working with our regional partners to identify as many as we possibly can.
Chief, I was watching a YouTube video a couple minutes ago of you from, I think it was the 12th, talking about a perception that Bellevue PD allowed looting to occur. Could you address that, especially in light of what we're seeing?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that question. So yes, there was a perception that we were allowing the looting to go on, and we prioritized our efforts that day. Number one priority was sanctity of life and not losing a single life. And if that is the definition of success or failure, I think we were successful because we didn't lose any lives. We also prioritized reducing the likelihood of significant injury. And there were some assaults, but no one, to my knowledge, suffered serious bodily injury. Then we also prioritized not losing any buildings to arson. Again, what we were seeing across the country and next door in Seattle. We didn't lose a single building. So we had a limited number of resources. We prioritized our purpose out there, and we are now in the position where people thought they got away with it. I remember I was out there and I saw people laughing and yelling expletives at us, thinking that they were going to walk away without being held accountable. Well, we're starting to hold people accountable, and we're going to be making more arrests.
So you've arrested, what was the number again?
We've arrested up to date 23, and we have an additional close to 100 people identified. And again, we're just getting started. This is going to be a long process. This is not something that's going to be one and done is in terms of arresting a handful of people. We're going to stick with it as long as we need to. And if that takes a year, 2 years, we're going to stick with it. Because the business owners and the downtown residents deserve it. They were victimized that day. And again, I can't emphasize enough how repulsive it is that people would take and exploit the homicide of George Floyd to further their criminal intentions. That's wrong.
Of the 23 that you've arrested and the more than 100 you've identified, are they mostly from the greater Seattle area? Are they from outside? Or
I believe most of them are from the greater Seattle area or in Washington. I think we had someone as far as Yakima, and most were in our region.
so it wasn't like, there's been kind of a narrative often with these things of Portland people or else from somewhere else coming in, but that's not the case here.
I don't know yet. Like I said, we're still working on identifying who was orchestrating this, and we're still in the early stages of this investigation.
You've said this, but I just want to clarify. Every single item in front of us came from the home of the 26-year-old.
Yes.
Okay.
What's he looking at in terms of charges and time?
So I believe we booked him for burglary, for being in possession of the drugs. Captain, what are the other charges?
Dangerous weapons
Dangerous weapon
and possession of stolen property.
and possession of stolen property. So possession of stolen property, burglary, the drug charges, and the weapons violations.
Does he have a history that you're aware of, or for that matter, any of the others that you've arrested?
Can't go there. Can't comment on that right now.
You convinced some of this stuff has already been sold on the secondary market, right?
More than likely, yes. All right. Thank you very much, everybody.